Admiral, salute! Salute!
Under grey skies, members of the Royal Canadian Navy, veterans and Haligonians gathered at the Sailors' Memorial to observe 2 minutes of silence, pay their respects, and offer their poppies on this Tuesday, November 11th, Remembrance Day.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening from northern New Brunswick across Prince Edward Island to southwestern Nova Scotia. Maritimers once again gathered at cenotaphs to reflect on the sacrifices made by Canadians. Welcome to this special edition of CTV News at 6. With a fort on the hill and a naval base on the harbor, Halifax is a military town, and in the middle, a cenotaph where hundreds of people gathered to remember the soldiers and sailors who went off to war and never returned. Emma Convey begins our coverage.
Hundreds stand in solemn silence to honor those who gave everything for our freedom. Among them was Halifax Silver Cross mother Ellen Pitcher, who laid a wreath in memory of her eldest son, Sergeant David Pitcher.
I'm very proud of my sons and of my oldest son, which was Dave, and so it gives me, we did something right.
In 1995, David died in an aircraft crash in Alaska. He was one of 2 Canadians who lost their lives.
He was always the big brother, the protector. When he joined the military, he was one of the influences behind me joining the military.
George Delavella felt moved by the Silver Cross mother's presence. He served with the Canadian Military Engineers for 25 years.
A lot of things go through your mind, remembering your comrades that fellow soldiers that passed off before us, you know. It was way too early for a lot of them.
On this day, he remembers his mentor, Ted Martens, an Allied veteran of the Second World War.
He fought with the Dutch Underground, and he just died last year. He would have been 102 this year, and I still remember him and the stories.
As a city with a deep-rooted history of military service, Mayor Andy Fillmore says it's important to pay tribute.
Halifax is home to Canada's largest armed forces base. We're the home to the East Coast Navy, home to the 5th Division of the Canadian Army.
Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu laid a wreath at today's ceremony.
We have stood together as friends, as allies, and I'm very grateful and honored to be here to keep that tradition going.
As the wreaths remain at the base of the cenotaph, each one a promise the heroes will never be forgotten. Emma Convey, CTV News, Halifax.
Another of the region's largest ceremonies was held in St. John, and just as he has for more than 15 years, its organizer was there to see it play out with perfect precision. From TD Station, here's CTV's Avery McRae.
On this day each year, Canadians reflect and honor those who keep us safe. But the work that goes into honoring our veterans is no small feat.
Stupendous. They do a great job, and yeah, it's a great parade.
Volunteers are what makes St. John's so great, because without volunteers here, we'd have anything.
For the past 15-plus years, the thousands of St. Johners who pour into TD Station have been treated to a powerful and moving ceremony, led each year by Bernard Cormier.
Such a wonderful ceremony because we have the choir and the music and the pipes and drums, and you know, a lot of places don't have that.
A lot of places also don't have a soon-to-be 101-year-old Second World War veteran taking in the ceremony. Having been to many memorials over the years, Winnie Rice says there are few better.
I came over from England at 21, so I spent most of my life in Canada. I love Canada. Bernie's one of the best that's ever been. He does it. And I mean, I wouldn't miss this. I haven't missed this in years.
We're so appreciative as a community that it continues to serve, continues to contribute to our community, and this service wouldn't be the same without Bernie Cormier.
But for Cormier and the volunteers across Canada who spend hours preparing for this important day, it is and always will be about the troops.
I'm really proud of St. Johners and people that come to the service for the appreciation they show. For those on parade, those who have served in the past and present.
Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
This year, of course, marks the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. In places like Lunenburg, there is renewed interest in strengthening the act of remembrance. CTV's Calvin Smith reports.
Parading from the Lunenburg Legion to the cenotaph, where people lined the streets to pay their respects to those who don the uniform. Asked if we're doing a good enough job honoring those who fought for our freedom, a very decorated 94-year-old Korean War veteran Peter Wilkins said,
"Starting to, yes, starting to. Things have come around."
Nearly 70% of Canadians intended to mark Remembrance Day, according to a Leger poll, down 7 points from last year, a number that the local Legion says should be higher.
It's extremely important that people get engaged and remember what happened in the past, because we see what's going on in the world, and it's a very dangerous place, and it looks like we're going to repeat some mistakes of the past if we're not careful.
Fewer than 3,700 Second World War veterans remain, part of why Remembrance Day is so important.
My father was in the Polish army, so it was always a day to remember him. We shouldn't ever forget that these people did fight, and if they came home safely, their lives were often affected as a result of fighting.
A time to take it all in and reflect.
I've put a lot of thought into the war memorials, and there's a lot of names on the memorial. We always say their names will live on forever, but we forget who they are.
Some laying wreaths as part of a family tradition on behalf of their great-grandfather.
I want to be able to keep those stories alive for family members like myself who won't get to know him, but will get to know his story, which is what matters most.
Ensuring the words on this monument stay true until the end of time. Callum Smith, CTV News, Lunenburg, Nova Scotia.
This year's Remembrance Day service carried a special meeting in the town of Windsor, one that looked to the future as much as reflected on the past. Families and young cadets stood shoulder to shoulder. Poems were read, wreaths were placed. Organizers say involving youth in the ceremony keeps the stories of service alive for generations to come.
Very significant to let them know what the sacrifice people have made over the years for the world that they live in.
Our branch has got more youth involved in the ceremony than most other places. We had over 400 cadets on parade here today. It's awesome.
And as the last post sounded, two generations stood united in silence. In Windsor, remembrance wasn't just observed, it was passed on. While Canadian youth turned out in large numbers, one woman in Fredericton is going further, a rare young member of the Legion Auxiliary. She's made it her mission to attract more people her age to the cause. CTV's Laura Brown has her story.
When Madison Morell turned 18, she decided it was time to carry on her family's legacy and join the Royal Canadian Legion.
We joked when I joined that I was probably the youngest member in the country.
At 23, she just received her 5-year service pin and is the first vice president of the Ladies Auxiliary at the Fredericton Legion. Her dedication stems from generations of Legion members.
My great-grandmother was provincial president of the auxiliary and branch president, and my great-grandfather was president of our Legion as well. So I always kind of grew up with that, knowing what that meant.
The Legion was founded in 1925 with a mission to support and advocate for veterans and ensure the act of remembrance lives on. But there is concern about its survival.
A lot of them have, turned in their past and not able to keep their legions going, and that's the sad part about our legions.
Morell sees firsthand the difference it makes. Bingo with seniors, bringing Christmas to the Veterans Hospital, mostly being a social support to isolated veterans and seniors alike.
Are you worried about the future? I am. Yeah. Since I've joined, I've seen more and more branches close. And I definitely worry about the day where I might be the only one left. So hopefully, I think that there's a way to preserve it. We just have to kind of figure out what that way is.
More than anything, she hopes people take care of the veterans in their family.
I think it's just really important to let all generations know how much they're appreciated and how much their sacrifices has meant.
Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
Now, just down the highway, a few minutes from Fredericton, is Oromocto, which holds one of the more meaningful ceremonies in our region, given the community's connection to CFB Gagetown. The town is close to the 5th Canadian Division Support Base, which provided the flyovers of helicopters for the town's ceremony today, traditionally one of the region's largest.
It is because it's a military town. It's not just a family thing, it's a community thing because we're all part of the community. Everybody supports it.
The local Legion estimates as many as 2,000 people attended today's ceremony in Oromocto. Now, there's no base in St. Peter's Bay, PEI, but no other community in Canada or in the Commonwealth, for that matter, lost more of its young men and women to the wars. No family was untouched by grief, an oversized sacrifice that is honored each year. Today, CTV's Josh Smith was there.
St. Peter's Bay, a small village in eastern PEI with a population of less than 300. Most of them gathered here at the community's war monument, which has a story to tell.
Most fatal casualties per capita of all communities, not just in Canada, but the entire British Commonwealth.
In a place like this, every loss was personal. St. Peter's had its share of tragedy, especially in the Second World War. Families are still passing those stories down today.
My uncle Eugene, he was a private, and he actually was killed on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. My mother shared all her memories of the war, so we would never forget.
Lynn Thompson McGinnis had another uncle serve that made it home.
My Uncle Johnny's story, not really known to me until my daughter, who did a project. Some of the information he shared with her, like getting caught behind enemy line, we didn't know that. My dad didn't know that.
Author Juanita Rossiter has spent years studying the area, which saw so many enlist and so many that never came home.
Probably built upon the First World War contribution within the community.
very small place, and they saw so many go from the First World War. It's only natural, I think, that the inclination was to follow in their footsteps.
Others remember relatives who came home but carried the war with them.
He was a prisoner of war in Japan for 4 years. He talked some, but he said nobody would believe what he went through.
They were brothers and sisters, 7 of them. They were in the war, and they all come back.
Remembrance isn't just once a year in this island coastal village. It's a story passed from parent to child, so no one forgets the large sacrifice. Josh Smith, CTV News, St. Peter's Bay, Prince Edward Island.
Now, across the Northumberland Strait, among those in attendance at the Truro event today was a veteran of the Second World War who will be celebrating his 101st birthday on Sunday. Ask anyone in Truro about Lloyd Cody. He's pretty well known. He served as a medical orderly on military ships during the Second World War, helping to bring wounded soldiers home to Canada. Born in Sheet Harbour in 1924, he enlisted at the age of 20 and served in the Medical Corps until 1947. He never misses a Remembrance Day ceremony.
It's very nice. People bring back memories and they appreciate what the Department of Veterans are doing and, you know, what the veterans did during the war, you know, and showing appreciation of all the veterans and what we went through.
Mr. Cody says he enjoys the chance to meet fellow veterans of all ages, and the community turnout is something he looks forward to each year. Happy 101st birthday, Mr. Cody. Thank you for your service. He looks a lot younger than that, doesn't he? Canada's Indigenous peoples have long made significant contributions in the armed forces and overseas wars, but their stories often don't get the same level of attention. CTV's Ryan McDonald spent the day at Member 2 First Nation.
Within this room at the Member 2 Trade and Convention Centre, the contributions of Indigenous soldiers in various wars over the years was well remembered today. But outside of First Nations communities, it might be a different story.
No, I don't believe it is.
Member 2 Chief Terry Paul is among those who feels that even on Remembrance Day, Indigenous veterans are largely forgotten.
It is too bad. Like, you know, well, we're all people. We're all equal. We all should be equal, and that we should all respect each other. And we have a ways to go to make right for Indigenous veterans in this country.
When they enlisted, they were not recognized as Canadian citizens.
Mi'kmaq educator Jarvis Gugu says hundreds of Mi'kmaq soldiers fought in the First and Second World Wars and the Korean War, even though they wouldn't be allowed to vote in this country until 1960.
It's the ultimate patriot, or you're not even recognized as a citizen of your country. You're treated as second class, and you're still willing to serve for it.
Myself, coming here 12 years ago, I had no idea of the extent to which the Indigenous community had participated in all of the wars.
Father Bill Burke has been the pastor at St. Anne's Parish in Member 2 for more than a decade. He says the annual service here each November 11th with a nice meal in a big ballroom is testament to the community's commitment to remembrance.
It never weakened here in Member 2. It was always strong, and it never weakened even when it was doing so in the rest of the country. They always had a great sense of gratitude to those who had gone before.
Indigenous Veterans Day is marked in this country each November 8th, and the hundreds gathered here in Member 2 were ensuring their ancestors who served were remembered today as well. Ryan McDonald, CTV News on the Member 2 First Nation.
From the largest cities to the smallest villages, cenotaphs feature prominently around here. Nova Scotia's oldest is in the center of the province, in New Ross. And as CTV's Jonathan McGuinness saw, the tiny hamlet draws a big crowd.
Names still familiar in New Ross: Hiltz, Keddy, Vino, and Nogler are remembered on the village cenotaph that dates back to 1917.
The cenotaph is the oldest cenotaph in the province.
The legion where the memorial stands can be traced back to Diane Asprey's grandfather, Howard Keddy, who was recognized on one of the many banners hanging throughout the community.
He was in World War I and World War II, and when he came home and he saw that there was no legion, he made sure there was one.
Military roots run deep here. Every November 11th, families gather to recognize the sacrifices of those who came before them.
I'm 81 years old, and every year it seems like I want to cry.
The turnout means a lot to veterans like Ron Langevin. He spent 34 years in the military, split between 2 RCR in Gagetown from 1975 to 1981, then as a search and rescue technician with the Air Force for the remainder of his career. When asked about memories, he says 2 come to mind. One, a water rescue in 90-foot seas off Newfoundland. The other was a helicopter crash in British Columbia.
We were recovering people from the glacier when we lost an engine, and we rolled 500 feet down the side of a mountain. And then later on, our helicopter came in and picked us all up. We had different people injured from, we lost one of our teammates, and a number of people had very severe injuries.
Langevin suffered damage to his shoulder and back. Still, he's one of hundreds who come out every year to the cenotaph to remember those who died fighting in wars far from this small rural community with a long military history. Jonathan McGuinness, CTV News, New Ross, Nova Scotia.
Online, we've assembled a photo gallery of today's ceremonies, and you can see that now at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. We're going to take our first break of the evening. I just want to make a point. If you're wondering why my colleagues and I don't have our poppies on, we remove them in accordance with protocol following the morning ceremonies. Stay with us. There's much more on this special edition of CTV News at 6. Many veterans attending ceremonies were thinking of friends and colleagues killed in more recent wars like Afghanistan. CTV's Derek Haggett introduces us to one Monktonian who is fighting to help fellow veterans still struggling with the horrors of battle.
15 years in the Canadian Armed Forces, 11 surgeries, deployed to Afghanistan, Africa, and Iraq. Retired Master Corporal Gordon Hurley saw it all during his time in Canada's Special Forces.
We punched way above our weight class. We did the same thing when we were in Iraq, and that's something that's not really spoken about, but the amount of work that was put in to help free the people from ISIS was quite astonishing.
Hurley has experienced post-traumatic stress disorder, drug use, and attempted suicide.
Yeah, in 2015, I believe what it was, on a military course, actually, and I was able to hide it and just hid it because I said I was a Special Forces guy.
When the fighting is over, Hurley says the aftermath of combat doesn't catch up right away.
Slowly you start to see the cracks, and then all of a sudden you'll see the big disaster, which unfortunately usually presents a suicide or a suicide attempt.
He went to Ottawa last month to advocate for alternative medical treatments, specifically psychedelic drug-assisted therapy to help veterans with PTSD. The former soldier has also co-produced a documentary series. The goal is to convince Ottawa to fund therapies using psychedelic drugs such as ketamine. Right now, possession or production of ketamine is illegal unless authorized for medical purposes.
If we can help someone who's hurting or doesn't feel whole or needs to have some acceptance because they're near death or they're dealing with cancer or something very severe, that they should be offered something, that makes sense.
Another Afghan vet from Moncton traveled to Ottawa to show his support. Both men believe more therapy and assistance is needed for veterans.
We're all struggling in a way or another. It may present differently, and some people are a lot better at hiding it than others, right? So it's why it's important for us to stick together.
As for what November 11th means to Hurley, he says it's a confusing day for him. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
We'll take a break. Still to come, we'll speak with the Maritimer who identifies missing soldiers from long ago wars. But first, Caleb Mitchell has his maritime forecast. The cold air gripping much of the continent, you guessed it, will make its way to our part of the world. We will have that after this break. Officer Square lit up in downtown Fredericton tonight. An appropriate place on this Remembrance Day to use as our live eye. 6 degrees, but Kayla Mitchell, we know the cold stuff is coming. We've been able to avoid it for the most part.
Yeah.
Our friends to the south have not.
That's what we're going to start with. This is a pretty rare occurrence for the month of November. Take a look at some minimum temperatures reported today. Take a look way down in the southeastern U.S., northern Florida, Pensacola starting off below the freezing mark today. Tallahassee down to -2. Jacksonville -2. And then you can see in the Maritimes, actually, we're starting to hit our coolest temperatures of the day at this hour. We started off very, very mild, and our temperatures have cooled down now as we're moving into the evening.
So look, not unheard of that they do get a cold blast at some point. It seems pretty early.
It is early, and that's what really stands out about this situation. Now, we are going to start to feel some of that chillier air was sourced out of the north of the country over the next several days. Our temperatures are going to be below seasonable, but nothing too out of the ordinary for us here in the Maritimes for the month of November. This is following up, of course, on the mild and rainy conditions that did bring in a significant amount of rain to parts of the Maritimes. There were two main areas of rain with this weather system. One that went southwest to northeast across New Brunswick, and that actually had some downpours and some small thunderstorms in it. A few of those thunderstorms coming in through the Fredericton area, and that produced some rainfall amounts of between 30 and 40 millimeters. And the second area of rain kind of scraped up against the south shore of Nova Scotia, but then sort of bullseyed around the eastern shore and into locations in Cape Breton, where I have received some fairly widespread reports of rainfall amounts totaling between 50 and 100 millimeters. And there's still some more rain to come. In fact, a rainfall warning continues for Cape Breton. Some communities could pick up an additional 10 to 30 millimeters of rain as we move through this evening and into the very early morning hours of Wednesday. And that's what this round of rain that's coming in now off of the Atlantic, passes across Nova Scotia, brushes to southeast New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Other parts of the Maritimes in behind that, as we move later into tonight and into the early morning hours of Wednesday, could see some snow showers pass through. That's showing up there and through those streaks of blues. Now, any remaining showers and snow showers should be coming to an end very early Wednesday morning, with Wednesday afternoon a mix of sun and cloud around the Maritimes, except with a chance of a shower or flurry around the north shore of Nova Scotia and Cape Breton. Back to those snow showers, though, the overall potential for snowfall amounts on the ground, very limited with those moving through. But in some of the roads that climb up into some of the higher terrain in northern areas of New Brunswick, maybe some of the higher terrain in around the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia, and Mount Tom area is always a little bit of a hot spot. It is possible that some slick surfaces could develop as those snow showers move through tonight into early tomorrow morning. Additionally, over the next 24 hours, looks like there may be some wet snow up in some of the highest terrain in the Cape Breton Highlands. Winds in the forecast for tomorrow. They'll be out of the west, and they're going to be on the gusty side. Widespread gusts between 30 and 50 kilometers per hour, peaking as high as 60 around parts of Prince Edward Island and some locations in Cape Breton. Low temperatures for tonight for many parts of the Maritimes will be falling into a range around -4 to 0. Some parts of Prince Edward Island, some parts of Nova Scotia, especially the Atlantic coastal areas, we'll see some low temperatures between 1 and 3 degrees, and that is us starting to feel some of the effects of that chillier air that's working its way from the west of us. High temperatures in the forecast for tomorrow, 2 to 5 degrees across northern areas of New Brunswick, with central and southern parts of the province with high temperatures between 4 and 6, and feeling a little bit more on the chilly side with those blustery winds. Prince Edward Island tomorrow with high temperatures between 4 and 6 degrees. In Cape Breton on Wednesday, high temperatures between 3 and 5. Eastern shore of Nova Scotia, high temperatures 5 to 7 degrees. On the north shore, pretty close to 6. Cumberland, Colchester, Hants counties for tomorrow, most high temperatures between 5 and 7 degrees. 7 for Halifax and Chester and Lunenburg for tomorrow. 8 degrees for Liverpool and Shelburne. 7 for Yarmouth in the southwest. The Annapolis Valley, Kentville, Middleton, around 6 degrees, and 7 for Digby. Taking a look at the 7-day outlook for New Brunswick, you can see those temperatures. They're held lower here over the next several days. Again, this isn't anything too unusual for us, but it is an extended stretch where they are going to be a bit below averages for this far into the month of November. There's a chance of flurries in New Brunswick on Saturday and a further chance of flurries on Monday of next week. For Nova Scotia and the outlook coming up, a lot of the high temperatures over the next several days will be in the low to mid single digits. A few showers possible on Thursday, but then a chance chance of flurries on both Friday and Saturday. There's some rain expected to come in Sunday night, may linger as some showers into Monday, and then after that a mix of sun and cloud on Tuesday of next week. And for Prince Edward Island, the outlook, we got a mixture of showers and flurries expected on Thursday. That's followed by a chance of flurries on both Friday and Saturday. Sunday, a mix of sun and cloud. Showers in the forecast for Monday, and a mix of sun and cloud on Tuesday of next week. Todd.
Yeah, 2s, that's pretty chilly for a daytime high. All right. We will talk to you later in the show, Kaylin, for the wake-up weather. Thank you. Coming up after the break, a conversation with a Maritimer who feels the weight of Remembrance Day every day. And we have this story on the scene.
A Maritime author shines a light on some of the quieter stories left out of history. We'll explain later as tonight's special edition of CTV News at 6 continues.
Welcome back. We're really pleased to be joined this evening by Sarah Lockyer. She's a forensic anthropologist with Canada's Casualty Identification Team. Essentially, she's the scientist who has identified the remains of many Canadian soldiers. What, Sarah? Often with just fragments of items.
Yes, exactly. With their skeletal human remains, some artifacts, sometimes if we're lucky, something with a name on it. But admittedly, a lot of these items do come damaged or fragmented.
Yeah, I should say she's also a very proud Maritimer from New Brunswick. I'd be in trouble if I didn't mention that. She's in Ottawa tonight. This is a day we as a country reflect on the costs of war. Your work exposes you to that every day. Does that get draining?
To be honest, I think it's starting to. I've been doing this job for 9 years now. And even though I did all of my master's studies and my PhD studies looking at skeletal human remains, now that I'm interacting more and more with families and learning what it means to them, that is uplifting and motivating and so helpful. But at the same time, you can't really escape the fact that your job all day, every day is centered on death and is centered on death of service members who went through something unimaginable and horrific at the end of their lives. So it is starting, admittedly, to get a little bit more draining. But like I said, speaking to the families is one of the most uplifting and affirming things that is part of my job.
And more often than not, it comes out of the blue, where they're surprised by this because in some cases they knew they had a relative perhaps that was killed in the First World War, and that was sort of the end of the story.
For many families, yes, they did know and know about this service member, knew that the individual had not come home, had gone missing. But what actually happens more often is the fact that we contact either DNA donors or next of kin to discuss a specific individual, and those family members have no idea who we're talking about. Yeah. They had no clue that they had a relative who went missing for Canada during the First World War or the Second World War. So that's what we encounter more often than that is family members who didn't know this individual existed at all.
Technology is changing everything. We saw people laying, of course, poppies at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Given advances in technology, DNA, and the rest of it, do you see a time when maybe there never will be another unknown soldier, that the science has come to the point where everyone will be able to be identified in the future?
I do think so. In terms of the unknown soldier that's at the Canadian War Memorial and the War Memorial in St. John's, in that sort of symbolic unknown soldier where we purposefully do not make any attempt whatsoever to identify that individual, personally, I don't think that would be something that would happen in any future wars. I don't think that the population would accept that, considering at how much DNA technology and other scientific technologies has evolved.
Well, let's hope we don't need to, right? I mean, ultimately.
Correct.
Look, a lot of countries don't do this. Canada does. Why do we see this as a priority?
Admittedly, when I speak to my colleagues who are military members, what they tell me is that for them, it's sort of reaffirming for them to know that if the worst were to happen, there would be somebody doing everything that they possibly can to try to identify their remains if the worst were to happen. So I think that's one of the main things to really sort of focus on is really why we do that. But at the same time, these individuals who died and who went missing, they gave their lives for our lives, for those who live in Canada and have the rights and freedoms that we do. And I think it's the least that we can do when there are newly discovered skeletal human remains, to do everything that we can to try to identify those individuals.
Sarah, we know that you can fill a couple of lifetimes of work given the amount of soldiers that are still unnamed and the amount of material that's still being dug up and unearthed in the battlefields of Northern Europe. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your time with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. We will take a time out. We'll be right back with much more. Katie Kelly joins us on this Remembrance Day. Maritime author shines a light on, well, the quieter stories that are often left out of history.
Yeah, that's right. Her new book follows and was inspired by a real-life couple trying to rebuild their lives after the First World War. Archivist and writer Renee Beliveau explores the aftermath of war through fiction. In her new novel, A Sense of Things Beyond.
And a lot of my inspiration comes from records that I encounter in the archives. I am typically drawn to historical fiction and kind of revisiting the past through a more contemporary lens. But things like letters and diaries and photographs are the kinds of records that really give texture to the past, for me at least.
The book follows and was inspired by a real-life couple trying to rebuild their lives after the First World War. A nurse who cared for the wounded near the front lines, and a man once imprisoned in a German internment camp. Set in 1922 Nova Scotia, their stories weave together to reveal the long shadows war can cast long after peace is declared.
And so immediately when I kind of realized that these two people had met and fallen in love after the war, I kind of started wondering what they would have shared with each other of those experiences, what they would have kept to themselves, and how do two people shaped by such different wartime experiences manage to build a life together in the aftermath of the war. So that became the seed of this novel.
For Beliveau, fiction offers a way to reimagine those silenced or forgotten voices and to help readers see the past with new empathy.
So I've always been interested in stories at the margins of history, and I do seek out stories that we might not encounter as often. I think when I encounter these tidbits in the archives that inspire me, I always think of it in terms of how can I humanize that voice? How can I make it a person that someone today would relate to?
Her research uncovered little-known truths, including how thousands of civilians, many of them new immigrants from Eastern Europe, were interned in camps right here in Canada during the First World War. It's part of our history, she says few people realize ever happened.
And I think often when we hear of these stories, if we even hear of these stories, we think of them as, you know, the enemy soldiers, spies, people like that. But that wasn't the case. A lot of them were just recent immigrants who had been welcomed to Canada, asked to come to Canada to settle maybe less desirable parts. And then as soon as war was declared, they were declared enemy aliens and were no longer welcome in Canada, and they weren't allowed to leave.
A Sense of Things Beyond is a novel about memory, loss, and what comes after war. A reminder that remembrance doesn't end with a moment of silence. It continues in the stories we tell.
If you look at the world around us, I think you will see a lot of things from the First World War that are hauntingly familiar. And so that the point is that I hope we don't forget about the past and that we don't forget the lessons of the past either.
Wonderful, eh? So A Sense of Things Beyond is on shelves and online right now. If you
That was great. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
And we've got yet more related entertainment, right? An important part of our armed forces is the Maritime-based Stadacona Band.
Of course.
Part of the Royal Canadian Navy.
Yes, it recently performed with Dal's Collegium Cantorum, and CTV's Hafsa Arif was there.
In the glow of stained glass, they told stories, not through words, but through music. Each piece written to remember those who served, those who were lost, and those who still carry the torch of remembrance.
It's always a very powerful thing. We have an opportunity to
use music to connect with some very powerful emotions, and we as the players also share those emotions. So it's always very moving.
For the musicians, it wasn't just a performance, it was participation in remembrance, where melody meets memory.
It was really, the looks on their faces was, I think the look basically said, we've never done anything like this before. And it was really wonderful. It's a wonderful experience.
The partnership between the Stadacona Band and the choir brought a unified voice, hundreds of notes, but one shared message.
We honor those who came before us. We are also telling the current generation that we will do the same for them when their time comes.
As musicians, we get to tell a story in ways other than words. So it's beautiful to be able to share that in a way that is so special to veterans, to members of the community, and to other musicians too.
Each song carried the weight of history, moving people to quiet reflection.
Core of that song is to just really pull back and take the time to remember people that laid down their lives for the better future that we have.
An afternoon of remembrance, not through silence, but through sound. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Halifax.
The Stad Band, I mean, they play together all over the place, as of course representing the Air Forces, the Navy in particular. But some of those members often turn up with other acts that promote all the time.
They're amazing musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to see them in the Stad Band and outside of it.
And it was nice to see you here tonight, part of this show. Thank you very much. We will see you tomorrow. We'll see you right after this. All right, one more look at the forecast. There's Kaylin Mitchell. And Kaylin, I know you've got the umbrella now. Well done, though. I think most of the ceremonies around the region managed to get done without any interruption from the rain or too heavy winds, so that was nice.
Yeah, it was nice to catch the break between the wet weather that moved through basically yesterday and last night and this final round that's starting to come through now. There was some rain around eastern areas of Nova Scotia, including parts of Cape Breton. Let's take a look at a viewer picture for tonight, and this is a nice one. It's coming in from Brenda Doran from Miramichi, New Brunswick. This is a lunar halo, so same principle as a solar halo or a sun halo, in that tiny ice crystals that comprise those high-level clouds are creating that halo effect. It can often be a sign that there is a change in weather coming, because that high cloud cover often runs ahead of the low cloud cover and wet weather associated with it. Miramichi for tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud, high temperature near 4 degrees. Day planner, first thing in the morning might be a scattering of some showers and flurries around the region. Morning temperatures mostly between around -4 and 1. And for Wednesday afternoon, the region mostly over to a mix of sun and cloud, with high temperatures in the range of 4 to 7 degrees. West winds that'll be sustained 20 to 30, with gusts between 30 and 50 kilometers per hour. Todd.
All right, thank you, Kaylin. We will see you again tomorrow. We want to thank everybody in the communities where we broadcast from today for their help in putting together our broadcast tonight, and those who shared their stories. We know it's often painful on this day. That is our look at Remembrance Day here at home. We're going to leave you with scenes from across the Maritimes and our national anthem. I'm Todd Battis. Hope you'll join us tomorrow night. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast.